This is the warm-up for lesson 8, variables on both sides, the second day. So take a second and do this warm-up. So as a review, we're going to have to combine like terms on the first problem. I've got a like term of 4x and 5x. Those are going to combine to make 9x. Oops, minus 2. We ask ourselves what's happening to our variable. Our variable is being multiplied by 9 and subtracted by 2. We're going to work backwards through our order of operations. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. We get 9x equals negative 27. Divide by 9, and x equals negative 3. For our next example, we've got a 1/2. Now we could multiply by 1/2, but let's work on getting rid of this fraction. So to get rid of the fraction, we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. Multiply by 2. Because this 1/2 is going to eventually get distributed, I just need to multiply the 2 to the 1/2. And what happens is these 2's simplify and we're left with what's on top. So I'm left with a 1 out in front of 4x, of the quantity 4x plus 8. On my right side, we're left with 20. And now 1 distributed through doesn't change the problem. But I just want you to know that we write down whatever was on our numerator goes out in front. So we distribute that 1 through and we get 4x plus 8. And now we can say what's happening to our variable. It's being multiplied by 4 and being added with 8. So we're going to subtract 8. And we get 4x equals 12. Divide by 4. And x equals 3. For our next problem, the perimeter of the rectangle below is 30. What's the value of x? So if our perimeter is 30, then our value of x would be, well, we're going to equal 30. And now I've got x minus 1. I've got another x minus 1 over here. So instead of writing those twice, I'm going to say that that's 2 times the quantity x minus 1. And I've got a 3x, which means I've got another 3x over here. So I'm going to say that's 2 times the quantity, or it's just 2 times 3x. And now we've got an equation. So we can distribute our 2. We say 2x minus 2 plus 2 times 3x makes 6x equals 30. We're going to combine like terms. 2x and 6x makes 8x minus 2 equals 30. Add 2. Add 2. 8x equals 32. Divide by 8. And x equals, what is that, 4? X equals 4. We'll skip homework questions. This is lesson 8. Variables on both sides, day 2. So our first example here, we're going to have variables on both sides. We've got parentheses, so we're going to try and get rid of them. We're going to get rid of them by distributing. We have 4n equals 2n plus 2. Distribute this 3 plus 3n minus 3. Combine like terms next. 2n and 3n combine to make 5n. 2 minus 3 makes negative 1. And we've got 4n equals 5n minus 1. So we've got a decision to make here. What side do we want our variable to be on? I'll rewrite it over here. 4n equals 5n minus 1. If we put it on the left, we'll have a negative coefficient, so we'll have to divide by a negative 1. So watch. If I move my 5n over by subtracting 5n from both sides, now I get negative n equals negative 1. And what do we have to do? We need to divide by negative 1, and so we get n equals 1. But if I moved it to the right, I'd subtract 4n, and I'd end up with a 0 over here, but I'd have n minus 1 equals 0, so then I'd add 1 and add 1, and I'd get n equals 1 that way. So either way, I like to do it this way where I keep my variable positive, and I'd add 1 in the same step that I'd subtract 4n in, and that keeps me from having to divide by a negative. But however you like to do it, user choice. Our second example, we're going to need to distribute. We see parentheses. 4 times 3x makes 12x. 4 times negative 4 makes negative 16. Plus 2 equals, and now we're going to multiply again. Negative 2 and negative 6x make 12x. Negative 2 and 1 make negative 2. So let's simplify this. Negative 16 and 2 are going to add together to make negative 14. So 12x minus 14 equals 12x minus 2. And already you can see this kind of looks a little funny, because I've got a 12x on one side and a 12x on the other side, but these aren't the same. So what's going to happen? Well, either way we try to move this, when I subtract 12x, doesn't matter what our intentions were, they're going to simplify out, and we're going to be left with, or they're going to cancel each other out and be 0, and we're going to be left with negative 14 equals negative 2. That doesn't make any sense. So if we remember, we say, put a line through it, and we say our answer is no solutions. We don't have any solutions here. Negative 14 does not equal negative 2. Let's try our third example. Now for our third example, we've got a fraction. So let's work on getting rid of this fraction. What are we going to do to get rid of the fraction? We're going to multiply by the denominator. Multiply by the denominator. On the side with my term outside, we just say 3 times 1/3 makes, those 3's simplify to 1's, and so I'm left with whatever's on my numerator, which in this case is a 1. 6x minus 9 equals, we're going to distribute here, 2x minus 3. Now I'm going to get rid of this 1 because multiplying it through won't change our problem, but I just want you to know that's where it came from. So we'll get rid of it here, but that's where it came from. And now what side do we want to put our variable on? Well, if I move this 2 to the other side, by subtracting it, 6x minus 2x will give me a positive 4x. So I can kind of do that in my head before I go. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So if I'm getting my x's are going to end up on my left side, I'll get 4x here. Where do I want my constants then? My numbers, my integers. I'm going to want them on the right side, so we're going to add 9, and I'm going to do that all in one step. So we're going to say negative 3 plus 9 is going to be 6. We'll divide by 4, and we'll get x equals 6/4. And we look at this and we say, well, a 2 will go into both of those. 6 divided by 2 makes 3. 4 divided by 2 makes 2, so it's 3/2. Our homework is homework number 8, variables on both